Coming in at number 3 is a story about a monarch who faced off against 14 truly mighty enemies in his own dining hall, the sweet-rolled king. In 18th century Sweden, the lands were ruled by King Adolf Fredrik, an easygoing king considered by some to be little more than a figurehead, while the real power lay with the institution known as the Riksdag of the Estates. There were many critics of the king, but what most can agree on is that he had a truly legendary appetite, and in February of 1771 he would cement his legacy. King Frederick ordered his servants to prepare his dining hall and stock his table with the finest and most luxurious foods that they could find. If it was expensive and or could assist with a heart attack, he wanted it there. After the extensive preparations, the king sat down to his very hearty meal. First, he tackled the lobster, then he fell into the caviar, followed by a shower of sauerkraut and smoked herring. Of course, he then needed a generous helping of champagne to wash it all down with. At this stage, the legendary appetite of the king was holding strong, and he loosened his kingly robe to make space for dessert, his absolute favorite, semla. Semla is a sweet, cream-filled bun, a tasty and unhealthy treat that can be consumed at the end of a nice meal. Being a king, he had his semla drowned in hot milk, making for a truly rich, luxurious, creamy roll to finish his feast with. He then proceeded to eat 14 of them and promptly died from indigestion. He is now remembered as the king who ate himself to death. Modern scholars have proposed that the tale about the king was a propaganda piece, but I just think someone stole their sweet roll. For our number 2 spot today, we have a story about a courtroom case like no other. The Cadaver Synod, 9th century Rome, a time when the papacy wasn't just a religious office, but a political battleground. Popes rose and fell, often through violent means, and factions fiercely competed for control. It was a messy, often brutal era. Our victim in this bizarre tale is Pope Formosus. He was a successful but controversial pope, involved in various political maneuvers during his pontificate. He died in 896 AD, seemingly in peace, but his successor, Pope Stephen VI, harbored an intense, almost pathological hatred for Formosus, the now deceased pope. Stephen's animosity was so profound that he couldn't let death get in the way of his vengeance. Less than a year after Formosus' burial, Stephen ordered the utterly unthinkable, the exhumation of Pope Formosus' decaying corpse. In January of 897 AD, the dead body of Formosus, dressed in full papal vestments, was propped up on a throne in the Lateran Basilica. Pope Stephen VI presided over what became known as the Cadaver Synod. A deacon was appointed to stand beside the rotting corpse and answer on its behalf. The charges against Formosus were read aloud: violating canon law, illegally usurping the papacy, and performing ordinations when it was supposedly forbidden. Of course, the verdict was a foregone conclusion. The corpse of Formosus was convicted. The punishment was as grotesque as the trial itself. Formosus's papal robes were stripped. 3 fingers of his right hand, the ones used for blessings, were cut off and thrown, along with his body, into the Tiber River. In a twist of poetic justice, the public was so appalled by this macabre spectacle that Pope Stephen VI himself was soon imprisoned and strangled, putting an end to his short reign of tyranny. Truly a gripping tale. Gaius Julius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus, better known as Caligula, reigned from 37 to 41 AD. He started out popular but quickly descended into a spiral of tyranny, extravagance, and increasingly erratic behavior. He thought nothing of executing people on a whim, indulging in bizarre public spectacles, and most famously, he even planned to make his horse Incitatus a consul, which was the highest elected political office at the time. His madness would result in our number 1 spot for today. In 40 AD, Caligula led a massive army to the northern coast of Gaul, seemingly preparing for an invasion of Britain. Thousands of legionaries, all pumped for battle, marched to the beaches. They lined up, ready for orders. But instead of giving the command to embark or prepare for battle, Caligula turned to his troops and declared war on the sea god Neptune. He ordered his astonished soldiers to collect the spoils of their victory. This meant running into the waves, stabbing the water with their swords, and bizarrely collecting seashells in their helmets as booty. Historical accounts differ slightly. Some say it was a bizarre mock triumph, others a punishment for his soldiers, or even a symbolic act. But the core story remains. Caligula, a Roman emperor with the full might of the legions at his command, chose to engage in a performative, pointless, and utterly ridiculous conflict with the ocean itself. Unsurprisingly, Caligula's reign of madness didn't last long. He was assassinated by his own Praetorian Guard shortly after. His war with Neptune perfectly encapsulates the absolute absurdity that can flourish when unchecked power meets a truly unhinged mind. It's a special kind of stupid. When asked about what enraged him so during an interview after the fact, Emperor Caligula said that the enemy had waved at him,